Hey YouTube, good morning. FSD Beta 9 came out last night around 9:30 Eastern time. This is my first drive on it. Just for visibility, I don't think this really matters to anyone, but 2020-48-26.1 is the version release. The release notes are the same as the production build that basically everyone else is on at this time. I think it's an interesting point to note is we did hear from EAP through correspondence that basically Beta 9 is not a different FSD build. It's essentially bringing the beta team onto the fork of .48 with the rest of production. So I don't think they expect us to see many differences for FSD. They always say some small improvements, but I think it's for us to determine. There have been some reports already that it's behaving differently. So whether or not it's code merge, whether it's not the car behaves differently after it gets a brand new download, I don't know what the car remembers between downloads. I don't know if the car has any sort of memory or whether it's doing it all straight off of code. Those are things I just don't understand. There's little perceptions where some people feel like it gets better after you drive it. I don't know whether that's the case or not. In any case, you can see the release notes format change here a little bit. You all have seen this before I even saw it, so there's no need to go through it. But one interesting thing I think that everyone is talking about is this boombox feature. And when the speakers were released, it seems like everyone is unaware of whether their car has a speaker or not unless they crawl under the car and look for the speaker grill. Apparently, I got one of the earlier Model Ys. This was delivered in March of 2020, so it was probably produced in late February of 2020, one of the very earlier ones. And I do not have the speaker apparently, so I haven't crawled under the car to look, so I don't have the boombox feature installed. So no fart horns for me. Interesting point of note there. Okay, let's go out and drive a little bit. I'll do a little bit of running commentary and see if I see any differences or anything noteworthy, and we'll see what we got. All right, it creeped out there to look. It was sticking out a little bit far on that one, but it stopped again before proceeding. All right, this is a right turn into a 3-lane highway. This is my famous unprotected left. All right, it stopped, I think, because of that car. That car was not in the left lane. All right, it jumped out too far and there was an oncoming car behind me. So I went ahead and punched it with the accelerator on that one. Very aggressive lane change in the middle of an intersection. I don't know why it lane changed. I wasn't even ready for that one. It wasn't wrong, but I don't know why it did it then and as quickly as it did. I'm going to chalk that one up to first time. Coming up on this double intersection here where it's not going to do it today because the first light is green here and you can see it, it's visualized green, but the second light is red, so it's going to go ahead and stop here behind the lead car. Alright, it's got its blinker on, and there's a truck in my blind spot, so I'm not going to let it change lanes. Felt like it was going to, but it didn't disengage when I firmed up on the wheel, so I guess it wasn't. And it changed its mind about lane change. I'm not exactly sure if it just gave up or if it realized it didn't need to do it yet. now you can see its intent to do a lane change. Still no blinker, but it's giving me the indication that it's starting to think about it. And when the screen shifts over like that, that's when I know it's going to do it. In the production build, you know, you get the little blue lane and then the blue car or the red car if it's not clear. In FSD, the only kind of indication you get that it's going to do it is when the screen shifts over, and then when the blue line angles over. Okay, we're going to have this left intersection here. Yesterday, it ran this red light. It's a red arrow, and it's a red arrow right now. Yesterday, it might have been because of a disengagement. I'm not sure, but I'm going to let it ride again here today. Stop for traffic control. Use accelerator or gear stalk to continue. So it's asking me to continue. I'm not going to continue. I'm just going to let it go here. It stopped way behind the stop line for some reason too, and this is mapped correctly. I'm not exactly sure why, but I'm just going to let it do its thing for the moment. You can see it is properly mapping this red. Yesterday on Beta 8, it ran that red while it was showing red. I'm guessing it's going to wait till the green arrow happens and then it's just going to proceed. Otherwise, in this scenario where it said use accelerator or gear stalk to continue, it's let me make the decision. Okay, so the lights are changing. You can see the yellow up there also. And now it's red. Okay, green arrow, and it's proceeding on its own. Stopped. Okay, I had to press the accelerator there. I don't know why it stopped. Okay, it didn't like the way that car was approaching. It slowed down again. That was cautious. Okay, so I left the autopilot engaged during that intersection, but I tapped the accelerator twice. I'll report that just as a little bit of an inconsistency. I get a lot of comments on the way I report and don't press the report button. Just in audio here while I'm at this red light, I'll mention I get to press that button 5 times, and then it gets overwritten with the data from previously. They say about 5, so I just use the number 5. Every steering wheel disengagement, brake disengagement, or stalk disengagement gets recorded to early access at the download after I come back and my car gets on Wi-Fi, or if it has a decent signal to download. I really don't have any visibility on when my car is downloading data. I don't have a router that's configured to be able to show it. But just so everyone knows, I can't just press that button every time something happens. I sort of evaluate whether or not it's critical enough to use one of the 5 presses of the snapshot button. And into the right lane. They did that fine. Okay, very immediately turned into the left lane. I'm okay with that. It cleared it. All right, this is one of those lanes I've had a lot of people ask questions about. This is a turn lane. It's mapping it correctly. I could get in this left lane if I was turning left, but somebody approaching me could also get in that lane. So it's kind of an unprotected turn lane. I think somebody has called it a suicide lane before. I've never heard it called that, but I can imagine in some scenarios it could feel like that. Okay, we have a left turn at an intersection with a green arrow available. It's unprotected at the moment. Okay, it got in that lane okay. And once again, it's, okay, stopped a little short of the stop line. I think it thought it was going to go for it there. Okay, now in an unprotected scenario, there's a very large gap. It can proceed, and I'm going to let it proceed naturally here. Did a good job. It kind of clipped the corner of that line there. I imagine if there had been a car at that intersection, it would have taken a little bit wider, but without a car there, it chose to clip it just a smidge. Okay, it wants to turn right. It did it with a car right behind us. It was tight. It had the blinker on and it changed lanes, but I know that fella driving behind me probably was thinking that was a little bit close. Alright, here's this right turn. It has a dedicated turn lane. And this one has a yield sign here. Slow down, slow down, slow down. That was a little fast. Alright, it's yielding. It did everything legal. Little bit stoppy there. It kind of jerked itself to get into the lane. I wouldn't call that one smooth. Okay, this is a drive into a parking lot scenario. I'm not going to go too deep into the parking lots scenario. I haven't been too impressed with how it handles parking lots, and I can't expect it to. Autopilot creeping forward, checking for visibility. That's great. There is really no left traffic here, so it doesn't really need to be doing this, but I'm waiting. Okay, now I have to go because it's out in the middle of the lane and the left traffic was approaching. Okay, so I tapped the accelerator there so it could proceed. All right, I'm just gonna let it go for a little bit so you can see the visualizations here. It's mapping the medians, it's mapping the cars accurately. Right now, it's obviously following this route to go around the parking lot. It does have 15 miles an hour set in a parking lot. I think that's a good speed. I've seen some speed issues before where it was doing 25 or even more than that in some scenarios. Alright, it's got the right path map there, so if it does it slowly and carefully, I'll let it go. Navigator and autopilot ending. Alright, I'm not going to give the parking lot performance that bad of a report on that one. I thought it did a pretty good job. Alright, I've got a return destination set. I really wish we had waypoints. Sometimes when you're doing this testing, the route that it plans for you is just not what you want. So I'm just dealing with the route I have. Alright, it's jerking around a little bit, and it needs to stay to the left here. It does see this gentleman here holding up the sign, so I can't really understand why it was thinking about going around. Alright, it's got a green light. It needs to proceed. A little bit of confidence. Okay, here we go. Alright, that wasn't too bad. Alright, nice, good yellow proceeding there. That's always good to see that the car doesn't overreact to a yellow. The fact that it saw it on the visualization tells me the car knew it was yellow and it just decided to proceed. Alright, we've got a left turn lane here. This is going to be a little bit interesting where there's not, well, there is a little bit of room. It looked like with the trailer on this car in front of us, there wasn't going to be room to fit in this turn lane. Now we've got a protected green arrow here. It should proceed without even hesitating. And it did. Nicely. Okay, went straight into the left lane. It could use either here. Alright, another yellow light. It proceeded. Okay, and then we're doing a right turn at this intersection. This is an intersection I've crossed several times. It's a railroad crossing. It looks like in the visualization they're still just showing railroad crossings as red lights, even though they do have the visualizations here on the paint for railroad. It's just showing it as a bunch of light symbology, but it's using the old code, so it's not doing any sort of FSD visualization. I've commented before that I don't like it stopping on the tracks, and right now there's a stop line here, and there's even a do not stop on the tracks sign there, and it didn't stop on the tracks that time. Okay. I don't know if you can see that car that just went by. It was definitely not looking there. All right, we're engaged again. Sometimes those scenarios when you're driving and you just got to be ready for something you don't expect, it just sends adrenaline through your veins. Because I know the car wasn't going to stop there until it would have been too late. That's just the risk we take as testing beta software. You just can't let your guard down. Okay, I can see it wants to do another lane change here. There is a car approaching from the left. All right, it's now clear. It can change lanes whenever it wants. You can see how it started zooming out. And then it did it again. It changed lanes right in an intersection. Some states that's illegal. I know in Florida you're not supposed to do it. A lot of people do. It's kind of one of those gray areas, but that was the second time it changed lanes in an intersection. Still no blinker. Still no blinker. There's the blinker. All right. Unprotected left with a lot of traffic coming, so we'll see. Interesting, it decided to stop short of the stop line again. It says it's waiting for cross traffic. It's good, but it's interesting that it's waiting here. All right, there's a relatively large gap approaching here after this purple car. I think it could probably go right now. Plenty of room. That was a good decision. No problems there. Kind of fast for that turn, but it did it. All right, I've got a short route here, kind of around the subdivision, just to do a little bit of FSD 9, kind of off the highway. All right, went around that car okay. 35 is definitely a little fast for here. I'm not going to even let it try that. All right, autopilot creeping forward, checking for visibility, so it's looking back to the right. No problem there. A little uncertain on its proceed, but it didn't do anything unsafe. Right. It's got its right blinker on, which is accurate, but it cannot see from its position right here. It needs to creep. All right, it needs to there was no traffic coming, so I didn't stop it, but it stopped well short of the stop sign and then kind of rolled around. Hopefully, if there had been an oncoming car, it would have stopped again. All right, I'll give it 35 here. jog to the left, right around the corner. So it can't see oncoming traffic yet, but as soon as it comes around the corner, it should be able to see oncoming traffic and make a decision on whether or not it's clear to proceed. There's a car right there. It can go right now if it goes. It did. A little slower than I probably would have as a driver. I'm sure that oncoming car had to tap its brake a little bit, but it was safe. Alright, so here we are on the street with no center line. Got a pedestrian with a dog here. It is honoring them a little bit. It's kind of driving in the center of the road, just as Beta 8 did. It's marking the edges just fine, but it's definitely biasing to the center of the road without a yellow line. Definitely being careful on this creep. There's no one coming. Oh, look at this. Wow. It got confused by something even though the route said it needed to go straight. Interesting. Did go around the yard debris. It's got a nice path around this truck. Alright, this is a little jog, then a left, then a right. It's clear both directions. Let's see how it does. Creeping, checking, and proceeding straight. Oh, that was a good job. Okay, FSD Beta 9. I don't think there's any changes. I think the email from Early Access is our best indication that they didn't make any changes. I think if I noticed any changes, it's randomness. It's the way the car is handling situations differently. I do notice it trying to creep in general, but I think FSD Beta 9 is the same as FSD Beta 8, but with the joining of the .26 fork that they called the holiday release, which was basically just a few games and some horn features for those that have the speaker installed. So we'll keep testing, but I'm not going to explore any deep dark holes to see if they changed anything in this release that's drastically different. In any case, thank you for watching. I appreciate the comments that I get from everyone. That kind of gives me a little bit of focus on what to do next. If you have any thoughts about what to try next, please feel free to leave a comment in the section below.